TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
And welcome back to another edition of the TWSN Tailgate Show. As always, I am your host, Matt Levine, joined by my now permanent, I believe, co-host, Bill Sparks. Right? I guess I can pretty much say you're permanent on this show at this point.
Permanent, kind of, sort of permanent.
Kind of. We're gonna keep it going. Kind of, sort of permanent. That's where we're at with you.
Kind of, sort of permanent. You know what? I am good. The college football playoffs obviously start this weekend. The bracket came out. I did not perform a South Bend and take my ball and go home. I am here with you, so obviously I'm sure that'll touch a few nerves. But I'm ready to get into it. Ready to talk some ball. It feels like it's been a while. But how are you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I was just gonna say, we were off last week, with not much going on. I'm not going to be Kirk Herbstreit here and say nothing was going on, right? But because there was a football game last week, right? There was Army-Navy. That's always a fun game. Credit to Kirk, though. He came out and said he didn't mean it that way, so we're not going to open that up. But we're excited. We're excited. We got our guy Josh here in the comments here. Josh, I just have to remind you that you lost the pick'em throughout the season. Before we get into the playoff, this is our first official playoff show, I'll say. So, Josh, you lost. You blew a 10-game lead. Just had to say that. But anyways, let's get to what actually matters, Bill. Because since we last talked, Bill, like on this show, so much has happened, Bill. Just so much has happened. Obviously, the bracket came out a while ago. People have taken time to dissect it and break everything down. We have not yet, Bill. So, with the playoffs starting tomorrow, we're going to break it down for everyone right here, right now, with fresh minds, Bill. We've had time to think about this. We've had time to listen to other people's stupid opinions. Only opinions that matter are ours, just ours. Right. What do you make of the bracket, Bill? And this is not to say that we don't like everyone else's opinion. Credit to all the content creators out there. We appreciate everybody. You're all doing a beautiful job. Before Bill says his piece, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like the video. We appreciate every single person watching this, supporting us. It really does mean a lot to us, and we're here for you throughout the college football season. But Bill, spotlight's on you. What do you make of the craziness of the bracket? We'll talk about the Notre Dame of it all in a minute here, but what do you make of everything that kind of happened?
So aside from the Notre Dame component, based on the structure of the rules of having the conference championships win the highest bid, they got it right. My biggest sticking point is with number 9 Alabama, because yes, I understand you can't punish them for playing an extra game, playing a conference championship game. But when you absolutely unequivocally get waxed the way that Alabama did against Georgia, there has to be something. There has to be some sort of stake in that game. And for them to still make the conference champion, to make the college football playoff after that game, that's a little egregious to me. I think that I understand the body of work and I understand getting to that point. But if this was a 34-31 or a 34-28 game and Alabama just barely lost, don't punish them. But when Alabama struggled all night long from the word go, and now you're going to say, well, not only are we going to put you in, but we're going to put you in as the 9 seed over Miami, over Tulane, who's a conference champion, over James Madison, who's a conference champion. That just doesn't sit right with me. But the other big sticking point of the bracket is I know that the Buckeyes got the 2 seed, but if I'm a Buckeyes fan, I'm absolutely ticked that you got the 2 seed, because if Texas A&M wins, that's 7-2 matchups in the Cotton Bowl in Jerry's world. That's a road game.
Yep. And regardless, I mean, they're going to be playing 2 of the better defenses, regardless who they end up getting. Because Miami's defense is, we've talked about it all year. Yeah. So I agree with you about Alabama. Do you think that Alabama should have been the 12 seed then? Or maybe even like the 11? Maybe Tulane should have been up a little higher?
I think that the 11 or 12, put them in, but just barely by the skin of their teeth based on what they did. They still deserve to be in, but to say that they're the best of the non-conference championship teams, they get the final at-large bid, which Miami ended up getting. I still say Miami should have been ahead of Alabama, but I get having that somewhat of a buffer.
Do you think that the committee used potential matchups as a deciding factor in this? Because you know what essentially was now the home field advantage game was that Oklahoma Alabama game that happened weeks ago when Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa and won the game. If Alabama wins that, maybe Oklahoma's on the same thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I wonder if the committee's like, oh, let's have another rematch of this, right? And then we also have another rematch of Ole Miss and Tulane. So you kind of, I don't know. I kind of wonder if the committee looked at this and said, okay, just pure matchup wise, do we want to see Oklahoma face off against a like a Miami? Or do we want to see Oklahoma take on an SEC team like Alabama, where ratings are just going to be through the roof because it's a rematch one, but it's just an SEC showdown? That means a guaranteed another SEC team goes to the next round. And we all know the SEC draws, they're the number one conference. I don't care what anyone says at this point.
Yeah. If they were smart, they would have flipped Alabama and James Madison, because then you have Oklahoma versus James Madison, which James Madison, sorry, Duke fans, does not stand a chance in any matchup. And then you get Oregon and Alabama in Autzen, which, yes, that's a difficult matchup for Alabama, but that's still an all eyes on me type of matchup. And we've seen this year that teams can go into Autzen and play well and win. Our number one seed in Indiana did that. So it's not a foregone conclusion that just because it's an Autzen doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But yeah, I think the committee put too much on these repeat matchups, especially when one of the repeat matchups, like you mentioned, Tulane and Ole Miss, was a blowout. I don't think that we needed to get there. I think at this point, that's just saying we might as well just go to the Sugar Bowl, and it's Ole Miss and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I find it really interesting. And I think Alabama taking down Georgia in the regular season saved them, because if you want to talk about the if you want to talk about the championship game hurting them, BYU got screwed then, because the only teams they lost to was Texas Tech twice. They obviously got blown out in both games. But if you want to talk about not penalizing a team, it's going to be BYU, and BYU fans have every right to be mad. But I think Alabama's victory against Georgia saved them in this regard.
Yeah.
Because if let's say they had lost to Georgia, but they beat Oklahoma, I don't think they make the playoff. I think BYU might sneak in over them.
Yep.
Because I think the committee views Georgia so highly that they were like, okay, you went and beat Georgia. Yes, you lost the rematch, but extra game, whatever. It's interesting. The whole bracket was interesting. I don't think there was too much controversy in it. Now, the whole discussion about the G5 schools, that's a whole other, we've talked about it. We don't think there should be automatic bids, all that. I want to ask your opinion about something, Bill. I want to talk about the Duke of it all. I think I know where you stand on Duke making the playoff, but you had Blue Devil fans saying they deserve to have a chance in the playoff. I think Manny Diaz came out and said that they deserve to be in the playoff because they, strength of schedule, they won the ACC, they took down a top 20 team in Virginia, which, I mean, Virginia handed that game to them. I'm sorry. There was no reason for Virginia to lose that game. None at all. Do you think Duke even deserved to even be in the conversation? Do you think they were in the conversation?
I think they would have been in the conversation had they not lost the head-to-head in Tulane. I think that head-to-head in week 3 is what did them in. If that's not on the schedule, Duke is in over Tulane, because I think the committee wanted to put them in, but it's the conversation that they just had with Miami, Notre Dame. Head-to-head has to matter. So when you lose, even though it's week 3, when you lose that matchup, hey, sorry, they beat you back in week 3. But also, if you're Duke, you got 5 losses on the docket. Beat someone. Beat Tulane. Beat UConn. Beat Virginia. Don't get the doors blown off by Illinois in week 2. And this isn't an issue. But also at the same time, the ACC has to figure their life out and figure out a much easier way than this tiebreaker scenario. Because here's the thing. If we had just gone off based on who the best teams were in terms of who should have played for that conference championship game, it would have been Virginia and Miami, and Miami would have waxed Virginia. And then there you go. A conference champion takes that. There's another at-large bid. And if I'm Notre Dame, and we keep going back to Notre Dame, if I'm Notre Dame, I know there's been a lot of talk about them joining the ACC full-time. I wouldn't, because they're the reason you're sitting at home right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of Notre Dame, Bill, we got to talk about it, because I have sat here for almost 2 weeks now listening to all the reasons why Notre Dame fans have it so bad, and how they should have been in the playoff, and they got screwed out of this. And we saw them basically say, we're not playing in a bowl game, and as you mentioned, take your ball and go home. What are we doing? What are we doing, Bill? I get the frustration. I get it. You worked hard all year long. You went on a 10-game win streak to end the season. I get all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell did you beat on that 10-game win streak?
There it is.
USC? Okay, cool. They were a flawed team. Let's be real.
Yep.
Who the hell did you beat? Because I distinctly remember, and maybe I'm wrong. You correct me, Bill. Mm-hmm. You played Miami in the first week, Texas A&M in the second week. You lost both of those games. But who's in the playoff, Bill? Is Miami and Texas A&M in the playoff? I think they are.
They are.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're Notre Dame, you had 2 chances to beat a team that's in the playoff now. Now you would have probably been into the playoff. So what are you complaining for? Quite frankly.
Yeah.
What are you complaining for? I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of hearing about how Notre Dame got screwed. I'm like, join a conference, dude. I'm sorry. I know you just did not to do it, but if you don't want something like this to happen, join a conference, because quite frankly, you have no business being in the college football playoff. And then you have this ridiculous nonsense coming down the line next year, where if they're ranked in the top 12, they are guaranteed a spot. What are we doing? I'm sorry. What are we doing?
And I'm glad you mentioned that. But first, I think Notre Dame should still join a conference. It just shouldn't be the ACC. The Big Ten is calling their name because that's where the money is. But you are spot on, because not only do you lose your first 2 games against Miami and Texas A&M, but also you beat Boise State 28-7.
Yep.
And then you beat USC by 10.
In South Bend, mind you.
In South Bend. You didn't look impressive. And don't say, well, they looked impressive against Syracuse. A JV team could look impressive against Syracuse. Apologies to the 'Cuse fans watching, but you saw the tape this season just as much as I did. You probably agree with me. For Notre Dame to say, we're going to take our ball and go home because we didn't get selected, beat the teams on your schedule, and this isn't an issue. Or go join a conference where it improves your strength of schedule. And I'm glad you brought up that automatic qualifier, because there's going to be a way to get around that next year. Committee places a heavier weight on strength of schedule. Yep. And then when your schedule doesn't matter because you play teams like Boston College and Boise State and Stanford and Syracuse, the committee's going to say, play better teams. Go join a conference. Go join the Big Ten. Play better teams.
Yeah. And I think, look, I'm all in favor of, when players are like, hey, I don't really want to play in this bowl game. I don't want to say meaningless, but it's not, doesn't mean anything in terms of, like a championship, right? Like I'm declaring for the draft. I don't want to get hurt by any means. We see injuries take place all the time, right? But for a whole program to do this, for a coaching staff to do it, this is weak. This is weak-minded stuff. I'm sorry. And I had been on I think Notre Dame finally got over the hump of the mental hump you have to get over to win in this sport, right? They get to the national championship last year. I think Marcus Freeman is a hell of a coach. I think he's going to keep this program running. But I'm sorry, this is a weak moment for this proud program. You are Notre Dame. You are one of the biggest programs in this sport. And for you to act in this manner is just, it's nonsense. I'm sorry. It's just nonsense.
I agree with you. And yes, programs have opted out of bowl games before. They have. But a lot of times it's because they flipped over coaching staffs. Yeah. And the coaches said, hey, I don't know these players. I don't want to put them in a position to fail. I'm not going to do that. Let's just opt out of the bowl game, give it to someone else. You have the same coaching staff, the same players. And if it were me, and I'm in Marcus Freeman's shoes, you know what I'm doing? I'm saying put me up against someone so we can go out there and blow their doors off. And then all you would hear the next week is why
They should
wasn't
have been
Notre
in the
Dame in the
playoff.
CFP?
Yep.
Should have been in the CFP.
Go
Should have been
take
in the
on,
CFP.
I don't know, go take on Michigan. Go take on any of the teams like that were just outside of the ranking. Just go to whoever makes the schedules and be like, hey, I want the toughest matchup. We want to prove that we belong. And then heading into next year, you have that being like, hey, you left us out. We then went and beat the bricks off this team.
Yep.
Heading all year, the whole narrative for the next year and a half or whatever, leading up to the college football season. Notre Dame should have been in the playoff. They got screwed. Now everyone's like, you know what? Screw Notre Dame. Yep. Because at this point, the committee may have a vendetta against Notre Dame going into next year too.
Yeah. Like you could
have the AD going out here talking about all this, like going at schools, saying there was a social media vendetta against Notre Dame. I'm sorry. Are we children?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a mindset of a child a lot of the time, Bill, but
right.
I'm not a child. Notre Dame's not a child. These are 18-year-olds at least. And I'm not going to blame the players on this. This is not the players fully. I'm going to give the players 5% of the blame because realistically, it's on the program. It's on the athletic director. It is on Marcus Freeman. Are we children? You're throwing a little temper tantrum because you didn't make the playoff. And I get it. You spent a lot of time and hard work to get to this point. I'm not going to sit here and take that away because I'm not a football player. I'm not an athlete. I can't fully understand what it takes to get to this point. Yep. Right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend that. You know, the other teams feel like they should have made it too. They're not acting this way.
Right.
You lost to Miami, the team that got in over you. You had a chance to win the game. Did you win the game? No, you didn't win the game. No. Because if we say, oh, we're going to put them in over Miami, now head-to-heads don't matter. What's the point of playing any damn game in this entire sport at that point?
Right.
I don't care if it was week 1. You still lost. You lost. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And quite frankly, I hope the committee does not put them anywhere near number 12 next year. I don't care if Notre Dame goes undefeated. They don't deserve to make the playoff for at least two years. They need to have a ban because the way they have acted in this it's left a sour taste in my mouth, most college football fans' mouth, and I'm sure the committee probably feels the way because there's a lot of egos going on in that room.
Yep. And that's the thing. I think if you're Notre Dame, you have to understand it would have been so much better if they had this conversation and said we deserve to be in and we should have been in and everything. And then still went out and played the bowl game. The rumor was they were going to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl, which would have been versus BYU, who's 12th in the CFP rankings. You go to the Pop-Tart Bowl and you blow the doors out on BYU, now you have a legitimate case. Now it just looks like sour grapes when your players and your coaching staff couldn't get the job done against Miami, against Texas A&M. If you want to get in, show me the resume. Show me the resume. Because that's what the committee is saying. The committee is saying, show me your resume. And when your resume says the 2 best opponents on your resume you lost to, they can't justify putting that in over an Alabama who went 10-3 in the SEC.
And beat Georgia.
Or a Miami who, by the way, just beat you head to head.
Yep, exactly. And I just want to point out, I would love for any team that turns down the Pop-Tart Bowl, get out of college football because that might be the best. We need to have a college football playoff game in that bowl. That would be so awesome. Imagine the national championship game at the Pop-Tart Bowl. You win the championship and then you go do the Pop-Tart. Oh, that'd be so cool. College football, please do it. Put that as a national championship game. Do it. I would love to see it. I'm sure all fans would love to see it.
Absolutely.
I don't want to waste any more effort on Notre Dame, quite frankly. I've been holding this in for a week now. It's been frustrating to see. But before we get into the games that matter, minus Notre Dame, because nobody cares about that anymore, we are having a personal vendetta against Notre Dame, at least I am, for the next year. We got to talk about some of the portal stuff, Bill, because portal opens up in, 2 weeks?
Yep, January 1st. Or 2nd. Yeah, January 2nd.
Yeah, so 2 weeks from tomorrow, the transfer portal opens up in the middle of the college football playoff, which is why part of the Lane Kiffin of it all was such a big deal for many schools. We don't need to talk about Lane Kiffin, just like Notre Dame. We don't need to inflate their ego. What do you make of some of the names that have entered into the portal so far, Bill? Because quarterbacks alone, there's some star power here. We got DJ Lagway. We got Dylan Raiola. We got Bo Perbula just announced today. We have Brendan Sorsby. We have Sam Levitt. We have Aiden Chillis. Like, there's going to be so much movement here. What do you make of this, Bill?
It is going to turn college football into an arms race. And we saw it last year a little bit with Texas Tech, where they used the oil money and the NIL collective to go out and get players and pay players. We're going to see the transfer portal become college football's free agency. That's what this is going to boil down to. And it's going to boil down to who can entertain and somewhat recruit, but who can pay to play. And I, for one, I'm okay with it, because here's the thing. The transfer portal, its initial intended use was to get guys who are either in a bad situation or didn't get the playing time somewhere where they could shine. You take a Brendan Sorsby who's at Cincinnati, you throw him, let's say he goes to Texas Tech, right? Let's put him at Texas Tech in Lubbock with Joey McGuire in that offense. You take a DJ Lagway from Florida, and then you put him, say, in a Baylor, right, where he grew up, where his father played, where he knows the area, he knows the culture. You take an Aiden Childs, take him from Michigan State to an Arizona State, right, and put him with Kenny Dillingham and build around him in Tempe. And then you take Sam Levitt from Arizona State and you step him up into the next level to LSU in Baton Rouge and put him against SEC competition. That's what the transfer portal is designed to do, and I, for one, love it. I love it. I think it is good for college football. My biggest nitpick is I think it should be moved back until after the playoff.
Yep.
I don't think we should be trying to discuss bowl games and then, oh, by the way, this player's also opting out. But one of the two has to happen. Either you move the bowl games to week 0 and you have a week 0 blitz out, or you move the transfer portal back a couple weeks till after the playoff. But other than that, I love the transfer portal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think it's gone a little out of hand with players going 1 year here, 1 year there. I might be in favor of 2 years. Like, if you sign, if you get whatever money, let's say $5 million. I don't know, that's probably a lower amount for most people at this point, but you're there for 2 years. Barring a situation, and you can appeal to the committee or to somebody, you can appeal to NCAA, right? I think 2 years, because if you're getting paid that much money, like, you should be able to dedicate a year or two. I'm sorry, but that's just me. But I'm not an athlete again, so I'm not going to sit here and say that. There's ways you can tweak it. Yeah.
If you leave early, then you have to pay a portion of it back. Right? Just like if you break your contract in the NFL, you pay a portion of the signing bonus back.
Exactly. There's ways to tweak it, and I'm all for player empowerment. I think that players having a decision over their careers, future, I'm totally for that. I don't believe they should just be locked in wherever they go. Cool. I'm all for that. Bill, I want to play matchmaker here with you for a second.
Oh.
I didn't tell you about this. I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
I'm in for this.
We're gonna play a little matchmaker with some of these names. Let's start with one of the more interesting names. At least I think he is. That's Dylan Raiola, because he left Nebraska. Yeah, he could go back to Nebraska. Let's point that out. Transfer portal players can go back to their school. It's not like he said, I'm done with Nebraska, or any of these guys said they're done with their teams and they can't go back. Likelihood they're probably not going to go back, but you never know. Weirder things have happened. Matt Rule was asked about it. He basically said, I wish him luck, but we have players who actually want to be here. A little slight, maybe. Where do you see Raiola going? Because I think Raiola is one of the more fascinating players because his talent level is insane. But he might have been underused a little bit in Nebraska, wasted with some of the talent they might have had. Now, if you put him on a different team, maybe he fully formed into the player he's supposed to be. Where are you looking for Raiola to go at this point?
So if I'm watching Raiola, the big thing that I am going to ask is what is going on with Gunnar Stockton at Georgia? Because that's going to be the deciding factor, right? For me, if I'm Georgia, Georgia was the last school before Raiola committed to Nebraska. I would think putting him down in the SEC, surrounding him with NFL caliber talent at Georgia on the offensive line and pass catchers is probably one of his better fits. The sneaky fit that not a lot of people are mentioning, but it has to be said because their quarterback's in the transfer portal, Florida, with John Summerall. And if Summerall wants to make a splash, there's no bigger splash than getting Dylan Raiola in the swamp. And also, you're now spiting Georgia because you know how much Georgia wanted Dylan Raiola. Now you get to go play him every year. So I would rank him. I would say Georgia 1, Florida 2, but I think there is a high likelihood that Raiola ends up in the SEC.
What do you think of our guy Will's offer of ASU?
I think that's probably option 3. I think Arizona State would be the third option, and the only reason I say that is just because Rayola doesn't have a whole lot of ties to Arizona State. I don't think that there's a whole lot of, I won't say talent, but you're going to lose Jordan Tyson. You're losing Raleek Brown. You're losing Max Icanacor at right tackle. So Arizona State's going to need a quarterback that can kind of grow with them. And I don't know if Rail is in that type of a position. And I know Cold Ham Sammy had mentioned Oregon with his brother. I think Oregon's on the table, but I think Oregon's probably going to try to go after a Sam Levitt or an Aiden Childs, someone who's from that West Coast area and knows the culture a little bit better than Rayola.
And I feel like Oregon, I don't want to say they need a more mobile quarterback. They don't need one, but they tend to prefer them. And Rayola isn't the most mobile. He has cement feet sometimes. I think Florida. I like the Florida fit. That would be a hell of a home run pick for Summerall to bring him there after everything. Obviously Lagway was good, but it happens. Speaking of Lagway, Bill, where do you see DJ Lagway going? Because I really was a firm believer that he was going to win the Heisman this year. I was very high on him. I have always been of the belief if you find any success in the SEC, you're a pretty good quarterback, in my opinion, because the SEC just basically is NFL light. Let's just call it what it is. It basically is. And we saw him find success at Florida in his freshman season. Obviously struggled a little bit. Turnovers hurt him this year. Leaving Florida probably. Where do you see him going? Because I know you mentioned Baylor. You've talked about Baylor. Do you think it's a lock for Baylor, or are there other places? Because I have a place in mind that I think he could go to that he would just thrive in personally. But for you, where do you see him going?
I see him landing at one of two places, but it's both in the state of Texas. Number one is Baylor, and it's just because number one, obviously his father played there, so there's an emotional tie. But then also we just watched Baylor coach Sawyer Robertson up to be the Big 12 passing leader in terms of yardage this season. And Dave Aranda's scheme will fit Lagway very well. And let's be honest, Lagway is much more mobile than Sawyer Robertson is. So being able to unlock that part of it. Plus, I think as good as Lagway did look at times at Florida, there was also the spotlight conversation where the light's too bright for him. Yeah. So I think that step down helps. But I would also mention Texas Tech, right? Because yes, we just talked about Baylor and all of that, the lights being a little too bright, but Texas Tech is a good place to go if you need to be insulated with NFL caliber talent, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to bring in DJ Lagway and insulate him with NFL caliber talent. But I think it's Baylor is far out ahead of everyone, and then after that, it's Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, and look, he might end up in Texas. I think he's going to Oregon. I really think he's going to Oregon. Because you mentioned it, he can be more mobile. I think he could thrive with the weapons that Oregon has. Dan Lanning can get the best out of that guy. I really believe it. You put him into that Oregon Ducks system, Oregon might rattle off 2 titles, maybe. He's that DJ Lagway has that kind of skill set. In my opinion, I love DJ. I would love him to go to LSU. I don't see him going to LSU, but no. I would love it. But I think Oregon, he could end up at Texas Tech, like you mentioned. But speaking of Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby, because Texas Tech fans seem to think he's going there. Do you think he goes there? He's our next up on our matchmaker here.
I was going to say, I think he goes there, and part of it is, number one, obviously you're looking for that step up for him. It's got to be to a higher end program than Cincinnati was. Apologies to the Bearcats fans, but you're not a top tier program in the nation. So that's part of it. Obviously, his girlfriend also just committed there for athletics as well. So there's that component. Not to mention, when you look at what Joey McGuire did for Baron Morton, Sorsby could have that kind of a rise, but Sorsby is also much more athletic than Baron Morton was. I will say this. If it's not Texas Tech, it's Bloomington. Because if I'm a transfer portal quarterback right now and I have a certain skill set, I'm not like a DJ Lagway or Sam Levitt where I'm super mobile, but I've got some athletic ability. I'm looking at what Kurt Signetti just did with Fernando Mendoza coming from Cal to IU and saying, I want that. So I say if it's not Texas Tech, you got to make a phone call to Bloomington and try to get there.
Yeah, I think I 100 imagine him in Indiana. That'd be crazy.
Mhm.
Texas Tech probably it's probably going to happen. So I have two more for you, Bill. First
Yeah.
one, Sam Levitt, because I think look, other than Rayola, look, Lagway is my favorite. He's my number one. I don't think he's the best quarterback, but he's my number one. I just think I just love what he brings to the table at this point. But Sam Levitt, we saw him find success with Arizona State, right? Now, you could say it was because of the roster last year. You could say it was because of Kenny Dillingham, but I liked Sam Levitt. I think he's a very good player. He's mobile. He can throw the ball. What do you think of this? Because I've seen Oregon. I've seen LSU. I've seen other Florida. I've seen Florida even mentioned for him.
Mhm.
Where do you believe he ends up?
I believe he's going when you jump from a program like Arizona State where he's BMOC. This is big man on campus in Tempe. It was Sam Levitt. He had the keys to Tempe if he wanted them. So when you make that jump, it has to be for a big name, big time swing that is also going to get you into the NFL. You also have to do it for a head coach that believes in you and believes in your skill set. That's down in Baton Rouge. Because we just watched what Lane Kiffin did with Trinidad Chambliss and what he did with Jackson Dart the year prior. And you can't sit here and tell me that Sam Levitt is not in that same mold of a very hair on fire, athletic quarterback who can make all of the throws, but is a bit of a gunslinger. Sound familiar? Because I'm describing Jackson Dart and Trinidad Chambliss' scouting reports in back-to-back years.
Yep.
It is a match made in heaven because then it also gives Lane Kiffin an immediate impact starter at the quarterback position because, yes, Lane Kiffin is a great recruiter, but we talked about it when he took this job at LSU. This is you have to produce now and in a hurry and consistently. And the easiest way you're going to do that is to bring in a high impact quarterback like Sam Levitt.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Oregon or LSU, one of the two.
Yep.
Either way, I think he could find success either way. Now, the last one I want to talk to you about, Bill, before we get into these games, he's not in the transfer portal, but he might end up in the transfer portal. And that is Trinidad Chambliss. If he were to be granted, I think, extra year of eligibility, right? I think he has to get one.
Yeah.
When is the deadline for that? Because, or is it passed? Honestly, I think he still is eligible.
Yeah. I think he's still eligible. I think they're still awaiting the ruling, and while they're awaiting the ruling, there's a stay of execution placed on it essentially. While
his team's in the playoff too, so it makes it very interesting. If let's say Ole Miss goes on a little run here, now if they go on a run, he probably stays. Let's be real. But if they get knocked out by Tulane, or even if they make it to the second round and get knocked out by Georgia, because that game would happen before the January 2nd window opens. Because I believe that game is on either the 30th, 31st, or the 1st. I can't remember the schedule, but I think it might be the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
If Chambliss leaves Ole Miss and he's granted this extra year, do you think he heads to Baton Rouge to go back with his old coach? Because LSU fans seem to be convinced that Chambliss is heading to Baton Rouge if he is given this extra year.
I don't think so. And hear me out. He's going to go to a place that their existing quarterback has not hit the transfer portal yet either. But amidst all of their chaos, I think he will eventually hit the transfer portal.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Trinidad Chambliss was where before Ole Miss? Ferris State. Ferris State in the state of Michigan. Michigan has been rumored to linked to several coaches, including Jed Fish and Kalen DeBoer. And if it ends up being Jed Fish has a quarterback in Washington and DeMond Williams, who's very mobile, very athletic, has a good arm. And we just saw how successful he was at Washington. There's a reason I wear this color. I say this. I think if Trinidad Chambliss, by the time he gets that extension, the transfer portal carousel is going to come slowing down. This is obviously predicated on Bryce Underwood obviously hitting the portal as well, which I think if he, depending on the coaching hire, I think it might happen. I would not be shocked if we see Trinidad Chambliss and Jed Fish leading the big house in 2026. as the quarterback head coach
That
combo.
would be an awesome duo. Josh, if you're still listening, that's probably your ideal situation at this point. So then what? Last question, 2 seconds, Bill. Just if that happens, where does Underwood go?
If that happens, Underwood becomes a mercenary and goes to the highest bidder. I would say likely LSU puts the brakes on everything to get Underwood back in town.
Would you rather have Levitt or Underwood if you're LSU?
I would rather have Underwood.
Really? Because I'd say Levitt. Yeah. He's proven it.
Levitt's proven it, but Underwood has a longer runway, and you can sell the fans on, hey, we might need 6 games or so, but look at what he did with Michigan, who didn't have any wide receiver talent, and we're wide receiver you.
True. That's very true. This portal opening is there's so much there's going to be more players entering the portal, and this is just quarterbacks, Bill. This is not skill position, not defense. It's going to be a wild few weeks. It's January 2nd through January 15th, 16th.
Yeah,
I think
through
it's
16th.
a short window, but it's going to be an impactful window. But Bill, we got to move on. We got to talk about the games that are happening, the playoff games. It's time, Bill. It's playoff time.
Let's do it.
Let's start out with one of the games that most people think is going to be a rout. Oregon hosting the James Madison Dukes. Everyone is counting the Dukes out all year long. They've counted it out. What have they done? They just won. They've won. Maybe not against the best competition, but they've won games. Bill, are you crushing the dreams of James Madison? Or are you taking the Ducks? And by taking the Ducks, are you going to take the Dukes to somehow go into Autzen Stadium, pull off arguably one of the biggest upsets in the history of college football, and shock the football world and say, screw you, college football. We're here. We're going to win.
If college football games were 12 minutes long, I might be inclined to take the Dukes. Because I think it's going to be close for a quarter. I think Oregon's going to come out, and there's going to be all this pressure of it's in Autzen. This is the CFP. No one's counting on James Madison to do anything. And James Madison's going to hit a sucker punch or two. They might go up 7-0, maybe even 10-0. But then Oregon and Dante Moore is going to turn it on. And it's going to turn into a blowout. And the biggest thing, if you are James Madison, is you have to plug up all of Dante Moore's other possible options. Just because this receiving core is banged up. They are depleted. Some of them entering the transfer portal. So it's going to be the Kenyon Sadiq show on Saturday. And if you're James Madison, you have to double, triple, quadruple, grab the water boy and have him cover Kenyon Sadiq at this point and make Dante Moore beat you with the other talent he has. But I think it's the Ducks, and I think it's not going to be close, but it could get a little uncomfortable after quarter one.
Yeah, I think the Ducks win the game. There is one hope and one hope only for James Madison, and that is they have to score when they get to the red zone. Do you know why that is, Bill? You probably know why. You know more than I do about all this. Oregon is awful at defending the red zone. They give up so many touchdowns. They are 129th ranked in the country, giving up touchdowns in the red zone. James Madison ranks 20th in the country in scoring in the red zone. So if James Madison can actually convert their chances, because Oregon's going to give them chances. Let's be real. James Madison will likely move the ball a little bit. They have a shot. That is the only way, in my opinion, that James Madison even has a prayer in this game at this point. But in the end, in Autzen, give me the Ducks, because I think this Oregon team is really, really good. And I don't think they're going to let their season be defined by James Madison. No offense to James Madison. They've had a hell of a run. They made the playoff. Good luck next year. Moving on. Tulane taking on Ole Miss. We got a rematch where Ole Miss, as you mentioned before, Ole Miss beat the bricks off of Tulane earlier in the season. But a certain lane is missing. Would you would say there's no lane on the sideline anymore for Ole Miss. There's no avenue really at this point. But do you give Tulane a shot, Bill? And who do you end up seeing coming out on top of this game? Because I find this game to be, out of all 4 of the games, personally, I think this is the most intriguing game, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people may not agree with that. They might look at the Alabama-Oklahoma game. I think this one is.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill?
I think if you're let me say this. I think Tulane is going to make this a lot closer than people think. And I'm saying this, Ole Miss wins this game, but be ready for some extra innings because I think Tulane and Jake Retzlaff pushes this thing into overtime. And the reason I say that is because, like you mentioned, Lane Kiffin's not on the sideline. It's Pete Golding's team now. As much as we want to think they're going to come out, they're going to play hard for Pete Golding. That first touchdown drive of Tulane's or that first 3 and out with Trinidad Chambliss, you can bet there will be fire alarms pulled all over X. Oh, God, we don't have Lane. What are we going to do? It's coming. And the reason I say that is Ole Miss offensively did a lot of great things, but a lot of it was hidden by Lane Kiffin's play calling. There's a reason Baton Rouge wanted him, and it wasn't just because he was a good recruiter. So I like Ole Miss here, but I'm thinking this goes into overtime. This is probably going to be the closest game of the weekend.
I agree with the fact that it's going to be the closest game of the weekend. I wonder about this game because there's been so many different reports coming out. Lane says the players wanted me to coach. Then there's reports, oh, that's not accurate. The players didn't want him. But then there's new reports saying that like 90% of the players said, yeah, well, you can stay. Just help us coach us through the playoff, and then then you can head on out. I tend to believe that the players wanted him to stay because if you can keep your head coach has gotten you this far through a 4-game sample, let him do it, and then you can bounce. Because at that, he's not recruiting people at that point. You know if you're going to go with him. Quite frankly, let's be real. You know if you're going to go with him or not. I wonder about this game in Oxford, the biggest event in the history of this program, as I think Lane Kiffin himself said it. On the other side, you have Tulane, who won their conference, lost to this team pretty handily, right? John Summerall, remind me where he got hired, Bill? Because he's not coaching Tulane next year.
No, he got hired in the Swamp.
He got hired in the Swamp. Who plays the Swamp consistently? I think that's Ole Miss, right? So This is John Summerall's first taste of SEC action since he got hired.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Green Wave, Bill.
Ooh.
The Green Wave are just going to go into Oxford and beat this team. John Summerall is going to get his first SEC win with a non-SEC team. I don't care.
Wow.
And he's going to then they're going to lose in the next round. But to Georgia, I believe it would be. But
yeah,
those Florida fans get to watch their coach win an SEC game in the college football playoff with a non-SEC school. Give me the Green Wave. The Lane Kiffin thing is going to be a lot to overcome, in my opinion. I think people are downplaying it a little too much. Look, credit to Ole Miss, credit to the players. Lane Kiffin helped build that program. Lane Kiffin is the reason they are in this position right now.
Right.
It's hard to beat a team twice in the season. And now they don't have the mastermind behind their entire season. They have not played a game without this man. They have not played since the Egg Bowl.
Yep.
When he was on the sidelines. Now, Charlie Weiss is going to be there because Lane Kiffin said, yeah, go do it. Go help. So maybe that helps. John Summerall, I believe in him. I think he was a hell of a hire for Florida. He's going to show the Gators why they hired him. Green Wave they're going to beat the Rebels. Goodbye, Oxford. We'll see you. The whole Lane Kiffin mess comes crashing down for the Rebels.
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
If Ole Miss Tulane does win and Ole Miss does lose, do you think there's second thoughts about making Pete Golding the full-time coach?
Depends how they lose. Depends how they lose. If they lose a defensive struggle, no. But if they were to have a shootout maybe and lose, because then it's like, okay, you had a shootout against a G5 team, like you should probably win in Oxford. That's it really just depends. But I think Ole Miss is about to get a taste of reality here.
Yeah.
Give me the Green Wave. I believe in this team. I think they're on a mission right now. to prove everything. They got a rematch against a team that already beat them pretty badly. They want to prove something. So,
Right.
Tulane, please. Anyways, next game, Bill.
Ooh.
Miami and Texas A&M, two of the better defenses in this country. And the winner of this game gets to go face Ohio State. And you have talked about for months, Ohio State's offensive line is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which team is going to give Ohio State problems in the semifinals, Bill? Or quarterfinals? Quarterfinals, my apologies.
Quarterfinals. For me, it comes down to which quarterback do I not trust to screw the pooch more, and Carson Beck or Marcel Reed. And because I watched that South Carolina game with Marcel Reed, and I watched that first half, and I'm like, there's no way that will survive in the college football playoff. But then I watched the second half, and I'm like, that's a team that makes a run. But I think Carson Beck does just enough. I think Ruben Bain has an otherworldly game against Trey Zune and Armaj Reed Adams. Miami wins this one handily at Kyle Field. And not only that, Josh talked about it. I would take Miami to beat the Buckeyes because Ruben Bain is going to be a nightmare for that Ohio State offensive line that we just watched in the Big Ten championship game when Julian Sayin was under pressure and that defense was rolling. It didn't look that great. And now you're going to say, well, go try to cover Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Good luck. I'm taking the Hurricanes here.
I'm going to take the Hurricanes as well. I have an article coming out tomorrow predicting all the games. In the article, I basically say whoever doesn't screw it up, just like you just said, whichever quarterback makes the least mistakes, and I think both are prone to making big mistakes. Look, Texas A&M is very penalty prone. It costs them throughout the year in different spots, and it's going to cost them at some point. On the other side, Carson Beck gets a little too cautious in how he approaches his play calling and everything when in late game situations. He just becomes very conservative, and that's fine, but it's going to cost them at some point. But it's not going to cost them this week. Give me the Hurricanes. The U is back officially. The U. Let's go. Let's go, Bill.
The U.
The U is going to go on the road, win this game. I just hope that it's a good game. That's what I'm hoping for, because this is a defensive battle, and I think Carson Beck has exercised some demons this year. Marcel Reed too. Give me the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes move on, and like you said, I don't know how that Ohio State matchup is going to work. We're gonna talk about that. Whichever team, because Texas A&M's defense is no fluke either. So
yeah,
it's going to be an interesting couple weeks here for both these teams, and then Ohio State. But Bill, we have to talk about this game. Yeah, we briefly mentioned it a little bit ahead of time, but we have Alabama taking on Oklahoma. Rematch again. We have two rematches in the college football playoff first round.
Yep.
Oklahoma won the first game in Tuscaloosa. Now we're heading out to Oklahoma. We're going Boomer Sooner. I can't speak. Too caught up in college football world. Are you taking Bama to redeem themselves here, or does John Mateer, who Josh's favorite player throughout the entire season, who broke his heart in week 2? Sorry, Josh, had to do it.
Yeah.
Do they move on? Because Brent Venables has something cooking with Oklahoma right now. They love him. He was on the chopping block 8 weeks ago. Now they love him.
Uh-huh.
Guess you could say the same thing about Kalen DeBoer. But where are you going with this, Bill?
You know what's really crazy? These two teams are a lot more similar than people want to give them credit for. They're two teams that have a really solid quarterback when he's on and a really rough quarterback when he's off. They can't run the ball. They struggle with offensive line protection. But there's one key difference. This Oklahoma defense and how nasty they are in the trenches and how nasty they are at all three levels, not just the trenches. I say this, and Alabama fans can hate me all they like. Oklahoma by 1,000,000. This is going to be the biggest blowout of the weekend because that Oklahoma defensive line is going to make Ty Simpson wish he was back at the SEC championship. It is not going to be a fun afternoon if you're a Crimson Tide fan. And what makes it worse? if they get blown out, are we sure that Kalen DeBoer is here next year?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, we got our guy Josh wanting to talk about it for a second. Bill, if you want to, before I give my pick, if you want to break it down for a second.
I think if you're looking at the Michigan rumors, I think you're looking at two names right now, and I think you're looking at Jedd Fisch at Washington, and you're looking at Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Because here's the thing: if Michigan wanted one of these head coaches that was already out there, already on the market, like a Jedd Fisch, could have already had him.
Yep.
But what they want is they want a culture setter. They want someone who can come in and lead them through what's going to be a tumultuous time with the whole Sharon Moore situation and the previous, Connor Stallion situations. So why not get a guy who's played on a national championship stage, coached on a national championship stage, when he was at Washington, and then also went through the tumultuous parts of SEC, filling in the shoes of Nick Saban because you were the next guy up. And now you get to come to Michigan, where your only competition in state is Michigan State. Sorry, Spartans fans. I say this: if my prediction holds true and Alabama gets unequivocally waxed, Kalen DeBoer will be the next head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. If Alabama advances, it's going to be Jedd Fisch.
So let me quickly, before we're not here to talk about Michigan. Just we have to because of DeBoer. If DeBoer were to get hired at Michigan, right? Let's say he leaves. Who replaces him at Bama, in your opinion, at least?
So there's a reason that, and we talked about this before we went on the air, but I'm going to expedite that timeline. Steve Sarkisian leaves Texas to go to Alabama. Will Muschamp gets promoted to head coach like he should have been when Mac Brown left, and you now have Mac Brown as the head. You have Will Muschamp in Texas, Steve Sarkisian in Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer at Michigan.
What a wild, man! College football just never ceases to amaze. Does it? It's always just nonstop fun. But Bill, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Ooh. Not about that. Just about this one game. Bill.
Okay.
Don't worry, you still know ball. It's okay. Alabama is not losing twice to this Oklahoma team. Alabama should have beat Oklahoma weeks ago. I think Oklahoma got lucky in a way. Alabama is about to remind people why they are the Crimson Tide this week, and this week only. They're going to lose to Indiana the following week.
Mm-hmm.
Kalen DeBoer has heard for the last few weeks his job is in trouble. He has deflected at press conferences. He has said, I'm focused. His players are focused. And in a game like this, I go with the quarterback I trust the most. I trust Ty Simpson. I don't care that he's looked bad the last couple weeks. He was a Heisman candidate from the majority of the season. I thought he could have easily been the Heisman winner if he didn't struggle in one of the last two games. I'm going with Ty Simpson. I'm going with Alabama. Give me the Crimson Tide to set up an all-time clash against Indiana, because I think that's going to be a hell of a game.
I'll throw this at you to hammer home my point of why I think Alabama gets waxed.
Yeah, fair.
Ty Simpson was sacked 4 times in that first meeting with Oklahoma. Do you remember who wasn't playing in that game?
I do, I think.
It was R. Mason Thomas, their leading edge rusher. He's back. I'm just saying, when you get sacked 4 times without your star edge rusher and now you throw him back into the fold, it's going to be a long day for Ty Simpson.
It's hard. Again, I'm going to bring it back up. It is hard to beat a team twice in one season.
It's true.
That's and Alabama has had weeks to prepare for this game now. Look, John Mateer is going to win this game for Oklahoma, in my opinion. He has to. He has to be, I don't want to say Superman, because he doesn't need to be Superman per se.
No.
He cannot be the John Mateer we saw against Texas. Granted, he was dealing with his hand injury.
Yeah.
But he can't turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over against this Alabama team. Alabama's defense is far too good for that. I just think at the end of the day, Ty Simpson's going to make an extra play, and the defense is going to make a stop on Mateer. And I think Alabama advances. But I can totally see your point. Because Oklahoma's defensive line scares me if I'm an Alabama fan a little bit. And we're in the year of Oklahoma, maybe. Maybe we're the year of Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma City Thunder won the championship. They're the best team in the NBA. Maybe the Sooners do something. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe we see have a rematch of Oklahoma and Indiana in the championship game this year.
I'll give you two big numbers because I wrote them down and I circled them. The first one, Oklahoma's won 4 of the last 5 meetings.
Yeah.
The second one, if Oklahoma pulls this off, it would be the first program to beat Alabama twice since 1893.
That's crazy. That's actually insane. Just for the history, it would be kind of cool to see. But for my pick, I can't let it happen, Bill. So I'm gonna have to call Kalen after this and say, you can't do that, dude. Like, we can't have that. But Bill, before we get out of here, we got this question a little bit ago, but I wanted to wait till the end.
Yeah.
Because this is the only show we're going to do before the games start. Who are the 2 teams you have in the national championship game? And who ultimately do you have raising the banner?
So the 2 teams that I
banner
have
trophy,
national,
whatever you want to call it,
banner trophy, same thing. I think when you look at how that team is formulated in Bloomington, and you look at the quarterback, and you look at how they've had those big moments, right? Those games going into Autzen and winning against Iowa, winning against Penn State, they're battle tested, right? They know how to win. Indiana is going to make it out of the top half of that bracket. It's going to be tough because they're probably staring down the barrel of, if my prediction holds, Oklahoma, then either Texas Tech or Oregon. If you can win both of those games, you're in the national championship. So I've got Indiana in that one.
Okay.
On the bottom half of the bracket, I took the Hurricanes. I'm taking the Hurricanes to get to the national championship. Because the reason is, number one, obviously now they're going to have to beat Texas A&M and Marcel Reed, but then you go into round 2 against an Ohio State team that just had their first taste of controversy. And the fact is, for a good half of football, they got rocked. Julian Sayin looked like he was seeing ghosts when Cignetti was rolling those coverages. Now you're saying, okay, well, we're going to do that against you with Mario Cristobal and this defense with Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain. I don't see Ohio State getting past that. But if they do, if by some miracle they do, you now get the Georgia Bulldogs. And if there's one coach in this entire bracket outside of Curt Cignetti that I do not want to coach against right now, it's Kirby Smart.
Yep.
It is Kirby Smart all day. So for me, my national championship is Indiana versus Georgia, two of the best coaches in this entire college football playoff. And for me, I'm taking the Hoosiers in overtime 30-27 over the Bulldogs.
So you're sticking with your Hoosiers. I love it. I love the stick to your gun, stick to your conviction. You have been on the Hoosiers all year long. And we have to give you credit because I don't think many people saw the Hoosiers coming at this point, at least maybe not this dominant.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride for the Hoosiers, and I think that they're going to be a really fun team to watch in the playoffs. But you're wrong, Bill. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
That's fine.
They're not making it. I'm sorry. They're not going to make it. They're going to be eliminated in the semifinals to the Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks are going to win that side of the bracket. I was been going back and forth between Oregon and Texas Tech. I think that is honestly the winner of that game is going to go to the championship game. I think the buck stops for Indiana against one of those 2 teams. I think Oregon has a better shot of beating them. They've already played them. They know how to play them a little bit. Oregon made some mistakes in that game against Indiana. Obviously, Indiana took advantage. Good for them. We all remember what happened. Mendoza had that drive. Oregon makes it to the championship game.
Yep.
On the other side, the Ohio State Buckeyes will make it through. Barely. I think when they lost to Indiana, it solidified in my mind they're going back to the championship game. Because I think the best thing for them, well, we talked about it, was to lose to Indiana. Because you have to be humbled. You have to go through some type of adversity to win a championship.
Yep.
Most of the time. I'm going to say most of the time because there are teams that go undefeated and win. So I'm not going to sit here and say that there isn't. So Oregon takes on Ohio State in a rematch of probably one of the best games we saw last season.
Yeah.
Then we saw another rematch in the playoff. Ohio State beat them, right? If my memory recalls. Dan Lanning is going to get the Ducks their first national championship this year.
Ooh.
Oregon over Ohio State in the championship game, 10 points.
Ooh.
By 10 points. It's going to be a
Love that.
neck and neck game till the end of the fourth. Oregon's going to be up by 3. I think Ohio State's going to do some turnover of some sort when they're driving. Oregon's going to take the ball down the field, score the touchdown to go up by 10, finalize the game, and the Oregon Ducks are going to hoist the trophy up for the first time, and they're going to get that monkey off their back because Oregon has been good for so long, yet they haven't won anything.
Yep. I will say this. If you are a Hoosier fan, you are hoping and praying that Texas Tech does not get out of the quarterfinal. Because if Indiana faces that Texas Tech defense led by Romello Height and David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez, they just don't have the horses on the offensive line to keep up. It will be a great matchup, but it's going to reduce you to being one-dimensional with a run game that's very good, but then Jacob Rodriguez is going to register 25 tackles.
Yeah. That's why I went back and forth with Texas Tech and Oregon because Texas Tech, people I think are sleeping on Texas Tech a little bit. They are very, very good. But I think in the end, the Ducks, it's the Ducks year. I don't know. It has a weird feeling to it. It's the Ducks year. The Big Ten is going to win again.
If they struggle against James Madison, like I predicted them in that first quarter, it's going to be that's going to galvanize them to make the run.
Yeah. I think they get it done this year. I don't think Ohio State goes back to back. I think Ohio State falls just short. And that's not saying anything because that's pretty impressive from the Buckeyes if they were to make it back to the championship and, lose like that because it just doesn't. We don't see it very often. So, Bill, we both have Big Ten teams winning. So we can't. The Big Ten might reign again. Georgia's probably the best shot for the SEC at this point. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun month of the season because we have 1 month from tonight. When's the championship? It's the January 18th. So it's exactly 1 month.
19th. Yeah, 19th. 1 month. 1 month and 1 day.
19th. Yep, you are correct. 19th. So 1 month and 1 day till we decide champion. It's going to be a fun ride. We are going to be here for all of it to break everything down. Any portal news that comes up, we will be discussing as well. It's not just going to be college football stuff. And we might have some surprises along the way. We'll see. We're in discussions. We're in discussions right now. Bill may not even know about some of the surprises. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Bill, anything else you want to leave the people before we get out of here as we head into the first weekend of the college football playoffs?
I think the people need to know that this is probably going to be one of the best quarterfinals we've seen. Once we get through these first round games and we get the James Madisons and the Tulanes and the Ole Miss is kind of figured out, we're looking at a quarterfinal where we could potentially see Oregon, Texas Tech, Indiana versus Alabama or Oklahoma, Georgia against Ole Miss, and then Ohio State versus Miami, Texas A&M. That's what the bracket in the college football playoff was designed to do, was to get the best teams in position to compete for a national championship. But not only that, I'll also say this. This year's bracket has probably the best group of quarterback play from top to bottom and the best group of defensive play from top to bottom. This is what we wanted. We didn't want the BCS and a computer pick 4 random teams. We wanted the best to play the best, and this year's iteration is going to show that.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% agree with this. Like it's going to be a really fun playoff. I just hope there's not blowouts like last year in the first round where every single game was not competitive really. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think having them in the home stadiums is an awesome thing that the college football playoff did. Yeah. I would actually like to continue that into maybe the second round, but that's just me. I just think it'd be fun to make a team go. I don't know, it just makes it a little more fun. But that's going to do it for us here at the TWSN Tailgate Show. We will be back in 2 weeks on the 30th, I believe. December 30th, the Tuesday. Yeah, right before the second round. We'll break down everything. Maybe we'll have some more transfer news. We'll see. It's gonna be a fun one. Please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video. We appreciate everybody, and we will be back on December 30th for another edition of the TWSN Tailgate Show. Thank you, and we hope you all enjoy this weekend of college football playoff. Thank you so much.